You all know this meme. A game you remember fondly, but maybe only because you've chosen to remember it that way. Some games deserve a glorious replay, but others, they need to rot under a thick layer of nostalgia dust. So where does Batman Arkham Knight fit in? Well, today we're turning on detective vision and finding out. But before we start psychoanalyzing this delightful little game, I'm gonna whip out my bias and flash you my 2015, a simpler time. Vine compilations, crusty memes, and a casual, oh, by the way, there's water on Mars, which somehow we all just moved on from. 2015 was wild. Back then, a young, virile moose had just started college and was trying to desperately fit in and suppress my inner nerd. Being surrounded by 40,000 people my age, some act normal switch flipped in my brain, so nerdy stuff in my dorm, absolutely forbidden. Like I've talked about in other videos, which you should go watch, by the way. Don't worry, I'll wait. Batman was my guy. I wasn't into superheroes in general, just him. Especially because most other superhero games back then were slop. But the first two Arkham games turned me from a Star Wars kid into a full-blown Bat lore gremlin overnight. Anyway, when Arkham Knight dropped, I was still trapped in that dumb college ego loop of Batman equals nerd stuff equals no friends or women equals unending sadness. But one glorious night in the dorms, I finally said, screw it, and I booted up Arkham Knight. And what followed was one of the most unexpectedly wholesome gaming experiences of my life. When I started playing, I was awestruck by how incredible Harley's Gotham looked. I spent hours just cruising around in the Batmobile, launching myself into the sky at Mach 5, and dive-bombing gooners into CTE wards. Eventually, I mentioned it to some guy on my floor, and that night he came to watch. And a couple days later, that one guy turned into 3. And a week after that, the entire floor of guys was dragging their chairs into my room to watch some Arkham Knight. This game created a moment I will never forget. Scrawny nerds and beefed up frat dudes were all crammed into one tiny dorm room, screaming and cheering during the cloudburst tunnel sequence. And when the Arkham Knight's identity was finally revealed, dudes genuinely gasped. I mean, even the douchiest guy on the floor spent 20 minutes asking lore questions with a little spark in his eyes. It was monumental. So yeah, this game means a lot to me. It'll always hold a special place in my heart, but maybe I'm looking at it through rose-colored glasses. Or more accurately, beer goggles given my habits at the time. But was I right to hold it in such high regard? Or am I just blinded by nostalgia? Well, to find out, let's hop the police barricade and put on a poncho, because it is time to head into... In this game, Gotham might have the illusion of being a map, but look a little closer and you realize this whole thing is just one big flex of Rocksteady's giant veiny Batwiener. The neon, the constant rain, the varied rooftops, the buildings stretching as far as the eye can see. This was peak game design back in 2015, and honestly, it still holds up all these years later. I am not kidding when I say I booted this game up again, and it genuinely took me aback. I had to stop and make sure I wasn't accidentally playing some 4K remaster. But no, just a decade-old game running on a half-decade-old console. And it still looks incredible. And then there's the gameplay. Flying over this city feels like a bust-worthy experience, and every glide kick makes you feel like a god. And as the story unfolds, this strange sense of belonging starts to creep in. The kind of belonging where you think, oh yeah, if I lived there, I would be wearing 3 bulletproof vests just to go get the mail. And honestly, I'd probably turn to a life of crime within a week, but that's mostly just to get locked up in a cell with Ivy. Anyway, Gotham is gorgeous, but it also shows off the best and worst of Arkham Knight. It's bigger, shinier, and more alive than Arkham City, but that scale comes with a metric back-ton of busywork. Militia towers, bombs, checkpoints, Riddler's weird little opium dens. Sometimes it stops feeling like Batman Arkham Knight and feels more like Batman Department of Public Works. But I'm okay with it, because getting around the city is more fun than ever before. And yet there's still a couple of problems. The movement in Arkham City is basically like ordering a perfect medium rare steak, and then the waiter keeps trying to force feed you your side of mashed potatoes with a shovel. Yeah, I'm talking about the Batmobile. Don't worry, we have an entire section dedicated to this beast, so we will get there. But first, let's talk about kinder times. And by kind times, I mean beating gooners within an inch of their lives. Because, oh my god, the combat in this game is crazy. From the rip, everything you thought you knew about the combat gets cranked up to 11, and then handed 25 milligrams of Adderall. Batman moves through these fights like an absolute psycho. He's so fast and fluid half the time that it feels like I'm the one holding him back. And that's an incredible feeling to get from a game. And those great feelings are amplified in the fear takedowns. I don't know what dev was huffing fear gas when they came up with this system, but honestly, thank you. This is so cool. It nails the idea that Batman isn't just some dude in spandex. He's a straight up predator. And he preys on criminals by terrifying them beyond belief. Honestly, he's just like Scarecrow, but with a slightly stronger moral backbone. But hell yeah! Because all in all, the moment-to-moment gameplay in Arkham Knight is still stupidly fun to this day. Whether you're gliding through the Gotham skyline, dropping out of the clouds like a bat turd-covered meteor, or ragdolling gooners through glass windows, it just feels good. Rocksteady took everything that worked in the previous games and supercharged it. And speaking of supercharged, let's talk about the one thing that left fans more divided than the Wayne family estate after reading the will. When they first showed this thing off in the trailers, people lost their minds. Finally, we all yelled, we get to drive the Batmobile! But what we did not realize was that Rocksteady didn't just want us to drive it. They wanted us to marry it, and then build a life with it, and then raise a family, and then eventually die in its cold metallic arms. The Batmobile isn't a feature in Arkham Knight, it is a almost forced lifestyle. And Rocksteady makes damn sure you live that lifestyle whether you want to or not. At first, it's awesome. You summon it, it flies onto the screen like a little beast, and you think, oh yeah, I'm him. But then, the tank sections happen, and then they happen again, and again, and again. Oh, and then again, and again, and again, and again. You're not Batman anymore. You're just an Uber driver with a cannon. You're out here doing donuts in a war zone. You're shooting at RC cars and pretending that this is somehow part of the world's greatest detective skill set. Now, don't get me wrong, there are parts of the Batmobile gameplay that I genuinely love. Some of my most vivid memories from this game come from those high-speed chase sequences when you're racing through Gotham's streets. The ones where you're smashing buildings and casually causing billions in infrastructural damage along the way. But after a while, all I could think was, damn, Bruce kinda hates money. Like, the Wayne Foundation gives out billions of dollars every year to rebuild Gotham's infrastructure and like fund social programs and renovate the city. But we gotta be honest, 90% of the damage is caused by this one dude in a glorified war crime mobile. Bruce basically created an infinite money glitch, and instead of using it, he's speedrunning bankruptcy percent, no major glitches. Look, I could go on for hours about this thing and how it turns a fun romp through Gotham into a checklist simulator, but that's not what this video is about. Yes, the Batmobile has a lot of flaws, but this game wouldn't be half of what it is without it. And honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I like it. And speaking of things that I like, Harley Quinn's ass. The story. Arkham Knight's story has the same kind of energy as a DJ who plays a set 3 hours longer than he's supposed to. It's super loud, it's really dramatic, and it is constantly trying to remind you that this is the grand finale. They let you know right away. By the end of this game, either Batman or Gotham will be standing. Not both. I mean, from the literal first cutscene, you burn Joker's corpse, get jump scared, and then watch all of Gotham evacuate in an incredibly efficient and unrealistic way. I mean, damn, if we've learned anything about the people of America IRL, it's that during an emergency evacuation, there will always be a couple of Florida men calling it BS and refusing to leave.
You weren't afraid at all last night?
No, I'm not scared of anything.
Anyways, Scarecrow is finally stepping out of the B-list villain closet, and bro is absolutely thriving. Well, as long as you consider stitching a potato sack into your face thriving. But he's menacing, he's theatrical, and he basically turns Gotham into one giant anxiety attack. And then pair that with Bruce slowly losing his grip on reality, and you've got one of the most unique takes on Batman ever put in a game. And while Scarecrow is ultimately the main villain of this game, I think there's a big argument to be made that the actual bad guy here is Batman's bunk-ass brain. Because a couple hours into this game, you find out that, yippee, the Joker's back! Well, he's not actually back, but Batman is essentially going around Gotham saying,
well, I'm the Joker, baby!
And that's gonna cause big issues for anyone who enjoys living. Because there is nothing scarier than a Batman out of control. And having Joker live rent-free inside Bruce's head is genuinely brilliant. Instead of dragging him out of the grave again, Rocksteady said, what if the Joker was your evil, intrusive thoughts? And it works flawlessly. Not only was it another chance for Mark Hamill to absolutely cook in the VO booth, but it lets us witness the breaking of a man who never bends. This story asks a heavy question. How do you stop yourself? Well, we do see two people stop themselves in this game, but that was a little crazy. And I think it's some of the most creative storytelling in the entire series. Because up until this point, we rarely got a look at Batman's thinking or mental state. Sure, we saw him get dosed at a Scarecrow concert and start tripping balls, but besides the occasional flashback to Trauma Alley, we didn't really get much. Yes, we know that Bruce is a highly messed up individual, but we always had faith that he would pull through and do the righteous thing. You know, because he's Batman. But this is the first time when I thought, oh god damn, he's slipping. And honestly, that's what makes this story hit so hard to this day. It's not just Batman versus the bad guys anymore. It's Batman versus Gotham versus Scarecrow versus Joker versus his own brain chemistry. And it's exactly the kind of unhinged finale you'd expect from a man who dresses like a bat and refuses to go to therapy. Again, brilliant. So where the hell do we go from here? Arkham Knight wraps up with Bruce faking his own death, Gotham slightly returning to normal, and leaving us wondering how many people are permanently walking differently after that long night. But it's the kind of ending that feels definitive, yet also leaves a perfect bat-shaped hole for something new. We got the gritty detective story with Asylum, the open world blowout with City. Hell, we even got a Batmobile simulator that doubled as a citywide insurance scam. So what's left? And another question, do we even need anything more? You might not like it, but I don't think so. I like where it left off. It tied up loose ends, it left just enough to the imagination about what happens next, and I don't think anything should diminish that feeling. If Rocksteady ever does come back to Gotham, I don't need it to be bigger. I just need it to matter again. Because this city, this world, deserves more than whatever the hell Suicide Squad or Gotham Knights was. Here's the thing. Arkham Knight might not be perfect, but it's a finale in a way that few games manage to be. It feels like the end of an era. The last time Batman games truly went feral with ambition, because through all the flaws, this game still holds up as one of the best superhero games of all time. 10 years later, I still love it. And I hope that you do too. And if not, at least we'll always have the memory of Batman doing 90 in a tank through downtown while Joker calls him a fat loser from inside his own skull. Absolute bat cinema. Thank you for watching. This is our final trip into Gotham and the final game in this trilogy. And let me tell you, without a doubt, this has been an awesome time. I loved every single one of these games. And if there's anything to learn from these videos that you've seen, it's go pick up a copy yourself and give them a try. I think you'll have fun. We are still at the beginning of this whole YouTube journey, so every single like, comment, and subscription really helps a lot. and it gives me that little bit of hope and inspiration to just keep going and make some more. Thank you guys all for coming by. Make sure you drop down a comment below telling me if you like these videos or if you hate them. Either one's fine. But most importantly, I will see you in the next video, and I love you.